Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm going to walk you through real estate. The caption here says North America, but it'll also emphasize worldwide, with more emphasis on Canada as well, because Canada is the trend where I'm living right now. But I want to kind of emphasize what's going on with real estate. Now, my presentation is only one perspective. You're more than welcome to go out to the Canadian Mortgage and Housing site, bank site, or any other thing to get a perspective in terms of what's going on in real estate, especially if you're trying to move up to a next house or looking at downsizing, to give you an idea what's going on in the prices, including housing starts and everything else what's going on within the market. A little brief bio about myself. A CPA CGA by trade. I've got 25 years of experience in academia, industries, and financial solutions. My agenda will talk about housing starts. I'll talk about the overall market. I'll even bring in some worldwide prices, and I'll talk about some of the factors that you need to be concerned about as we move forward. I'll start with housing starts. In Canada's case, they're pretty strong. We're still seeing roughly that we'll likely run around 200,000 units this year. That's pretty strong still, considering what else is going on in the economy here. We're not seeing strong economic growth in areas like Newfoundland, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, so a lot of the housing market's being driven by Ontario, down east, and BC. This is the slide I want to focus on for about 10-15 seconds. Look at the real housing prices just over a quarter comparison. You're almost seeing 15% growth in Canada alone. Yet, wages over a period of time, even for 1 year, are only growing at less than 1%. Inflation's about 2%. Economic growth in the first quarter was a little bit higher, just due to a strong January, but it's averaging out over 1.5%. So in general, we're seeing almost 5 to 6 times higher prices than the economic conditions are indicating. The concern should be, how is that sustainable as we move forward? Because that is very scary to see how much prices come up. Now, a lot of that has to do with supply and demand. We're seeing a lot of people coming into the market with low interest rates. That's part of it. The second point is we're seeing money come in from offshore, where people have immigrated to Canada from countries like the Middle East to China, who bought up property in Vancouver, Toronto. That's also artificially marked up prices too as well, and that's impacted the market as well. And that's something to watch out, how government policies deal with these issues as well as we go forward. This kind of gives you an idea of some of the charts on housing starts, new inventory. It just shows you some of the flat line and some of the trends that they're going. This is the one trend I want to focus on for 10 seconds here. If you look at the average price across Canada, it's grown since 2010 by 45%. So if you average that out, that works out to almost 8% clip a year. Wages haven't grown by 8% a year. The economy hasn't grown by 8% a year, and inflation has only been about 2%. So why all of a sudden now we're seeing such huge things? Well, first of all, as I mentioned, we've got supply and demand. We've got more people entering the market. We've got bid wars going on property. All these are leading to concerns around the stability of that market, because at some point you're going to have a market correction like we had in the mid-90s, where people had mortgages higher than the value of the house. When's that market correction? Nobody seems to know. But is it going to happen at some point? Yes, because pricing is not sustainable, and the affordability issue is going to come into play. Just wanted to focus on retail sales just to show you that the home renovation area has done pretty solid the last few years. Last year, about 8% growth, and that's critical because that shows you people are spending money on renovations. That drives the economy. Now, issues in real estate. This is just an overall statement of going into 2016 and overall housing starts, and just the influence of what's going to happen. Is softwood lumber dispute or agreements expired? It needs to be renegotiated. That impacts the lumber industry, which also will drive housing starts down in the U.S. That's something to bear in mind. There's been some changes in the down payment rules for $500 to $1 million mortgages that kicked in February this year. That's something to watch. We're still seeing low interest rates. I don't see on the horizon, based on the Bank of Canada saying they're going to raise it. So that's something to bear in mind as well. I wanted to show you this. It's not to pick on RBC Economics, because they're very solid. This is just to show you that what they thought possibly was going to happen in housing prices hasn't materialize, and it's something to bear in mind as you move forward, as you're watching the trends. And that was going back to just the 2014, 2 years ago. Let me talk about the issues at hand. The issues with the housing market are not generic to just the federal government. They're not to the municipal government. They're not to the provincial. All parties have to be involved with the solution. Okay, it comes back to housing valuation, bids and ask. It comes back to the mortgage rules in terms of how we qualify people. It comes back to the amortization period of mortgages. It's the whole gamut that needs to be revisited as part of to have a housing market that's sustainable but affordable, that meets the needs of people as they want to enter into home ownership. But also bear in mind they keep control of the debt issues. And that's something that's not discussed to the degree that should be in this country. There's a lot of rhetoric going around that the federal government can fix all this. They can't, because a lot of the real estate boards are provincially driven. They can't control land. That gets down to the municipal and provincial levels. So that being said, it will take an integrated strategy with all parties sitting at the table, how they move this thing forward. This just kind of shows you some of the trends. People are putting solar, wind, or solar power and putting power back to the grid. It's just something to watch out for as people manage their housing. These are other sources to look at. Again, you'll see the housing starts. You can go in the U.S. retail sales and nearshoring. This kind of shows you the economic activity as well as what's going on in the real estate market. That being said, many of you have to kind of take a look and think yourself through as you put your plan together, your financial plan of how you want to enter the real estate area to buy your own home ownership, whether it's a condo or starter home, to figure out how you can do things with on your cash flow. It's really going to come back to cash management, as well as reforms are required as part of moving the real estate forward. And that's something that's going to bear in mind to see how this materializes over the next year or so, because we are hitting a period of time where affordability seems to be in question now. It was there for the longest time, but more and more people are starting to see here and say, okay, realistically, can I really afford to own a home? If you can't maintain a home in terms of putting the value into it, fixing roofs, a furnace and all that, then you shouldn't necessarily look at home ownership. So you have to look at the whole gamut on your financial plan, because at the end of the day, it's your financial plan that's going to be how you move your life forward as part of both home ownership, retirement, career. All that has to be part of the solution. The reason why I wanted to come at it that way is that it's not just trying to own a home, it's also to be able to have a quality of life, and that's what you have to think about as well. Thank you.